Catch some Soulshine, and today I'm joined with a very special guest that I will introduce here in a minute. If you missed last week's episode with Tracy Matthews, she started her own reinvention after becoming an eight-figure CEO with this jewelry industry that she's led for 13 years. And, she had a vision. And that's what life is about, right? We have visions and then we act on them. So if you missed it, you're probably not a subscriber. So I encourage you to hit that bell so that you don't miss anything. Today, I'm starting something extremely special with my friend Kate. We've been talking a little bit and we align on some values. I've noticed the political climate. We are going to do a mini series, 4 episodes about understanding political grief. There's a lot of it. And I don't care which side you're on. I have my values and I'm going to present them with Mama Kate in a way that will resonate with everyone. Kate is known as Mama Kate. Her real name is Kate White. She has spent 15 years creating healing spaces and navigating social and political trauma. She's an expert. She's lived it, walked it, taught it. She has a plethora of knowledge in the educational world, and she's done so much healing, similar to me. So it's no surprise that we really connected on a spiritual level. I want to start with this quote from Thelma Bryant. When we heal ourselves, we heal our ancestor wounds that run deep in our family. We heal our ancestors, we heal the world. This quote resonates because political trauma isn't just personal, it's intergenerational. Many people are processing not just current events, but historical patterns. These patterns affect not only us, but our children, future generations, and stem back to past generations. We're going to dig right in and talk about these. I want you to start out, Kate, talking about detailed information about the body's stress response and how the body really does keep the score. How do we hold that in our bodies? Can you elaborate on that and tell people why you feel compelled to dive into this particular arena with?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be part of this mini series and to share this vision. I am a former educator, both a teacher and an administrator. I taught special ed and I taught general ed and I taught K-12. And then I've also worked with adult populations in group homes and settings. I'm also a mother of 2 neurodivergent children, one who identifies as non-binary trans queer. And I have my own journey of being a survivor of abuse and loss and grieving things in my own personal life. And you alluded to the healing that I've done, and the healing I've done has been personal as well as transpersonal. And so in today's political climate, even though I've done the healing on myself, I just this morning, sitting at a little coffee shop before joining you, listening to 3 different conversations of people and their stresses, people and their concerns, people and their looking for answers, often outside our country. The body keeping the score, trauma installs itself, ignites a fear response. We become anger, we experience rage, we go to depression, we pull away, and it's all based on that internal trauma, fear, insecurity.
The spectrum, right?
Yes, yes.
Those who are adamantly negative about that population and those that are in that population both experience the same fears.
Yes, yes. The
Yeah.
answer is to recognize that it isn't truly rage and it isn't truly anger, although it's okay to express those things. But we have to see what caused the trauma response in the first place. It typically boils down to fear. If we look at that fear response in our bodies, it manifests itself in our social interactions. It manifests itself in our physical responses. That's why I started the healing journey, because my body had kept the score. My liver was failing. I've had 2 blood clots in the brain, fibromyalgia, and irritable bowel. It all boils down to how I've stored fear in my body, and beginning to release that, I've taken my life back, and I want to help other people do the same. There are several ways we can do that, but primarily through movement and breath work, drilling down into where that fear resides in our body.
And that's why I love you so much, because the whole premise of my healing journey is I felt it and I knew it, but movement and creativity have been core of
Absolutely.
me. Being the researcher I am, I think this is another way we align, because I love to read, study, and research. There's so much information coming forward about how creativity really does help you release the trauma and heal your body and your mind and spirit. People that remain open minded, that's the first step. You have to be honest and open minded
Yeah.
to start releasing some of these traumas and begin to heal. There's such a huge division. I find myself guilty of this, like, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Sometimes I just want to be right,
Yeah.
wrong, and I'm right. When we get down to looking at the other person as a wounded soul and then reflecting back to us, I'm healing my soul.
Love
Yeah,
and compassion, both for ourselves
yeah,
and for others. And the way we're going to
right.
drill down into the anger and fear that's settled in our body is through that creative introspection, that creative expression, that creative outlet, because that is a safe way for the body to communicate what is happening. And that is the basis of that whole diving in. Sometimes it sounds scary
Mhm.
to do that. People think about talk therapy and all the things. It can be as simple as beginning with journaling.
Absolutely. That's why I started this whole journal thing. You don't have to write a lot. People get scared about journaling, and I was too. I put these prompts out. You can find it in the show notes if you're interested. But every day you get a prompt. Have I journaled every day for my whole life? No. Am I more consistent now? Yes. Because I find that if I just write a little something every day, it makes a huge difference. I try to do it first thing in the morning. And another thing that I do on top of the journal entry is I write 5 or 6 things that I'm grateful for every single
Yep.
day. It's like this morning I got up, and one of the Atomic Habits, that's another book that I read that I started putting into my life, is I get up and I make my bed every day. Whether I'm at
Mhm.
home, whether I'm at a hotel like I am right now. And so I was making the bed this morning and I saw these prisms of light floating across the top of the bed. I'm like, what the heck? I'm in a hotel room. How can this be happening? But when you are aware of your surroundings and you begin to implement some of these tools into your life, everything changes. So I know that you have Mama Kate talks on social media. And
Love not.
can you tell people what that's about and what inspires you to give these talks every day? Maybe they just
Yeah.
want to get on social media and hear a message of hope every day. Share a little bit
Right.
about that.
I would love to. So, Love Notes with Mama Kate began because I was needing to feel the love myself. And I mentioned my daughter, who considers themselves non binary, identifies as non binary, lives with a trans woman, and their community continues to be compressed and feel the pressure of what's happening. And so I began to realize that it wasn't just me needing to feel this, it was my own family who needed to feel it and my wider circle. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. And so the response I'm getting from just simply putting out the love notes, you are on the right track. That little feeling you feel in your heart, that isn't fear, that is you recognizing that you have power in this world, and it's showing you the way to find that power that you can use out in the world. And then giving a little simple creativity, whether it's outline your body and identify two places that you feel fear in your body, and then identify in those two places the joy that you have experienced in your life in those two places. So whether it's holding a baby to your breast, or it's a child, a third grader, runs up to you and puts their head in your fluffy belly and just wants a big hug, you overwrite the fear and the anger and the pain with the love and the joy and the compassion. So just those little creativity pieces, and then a journal. And I'll tell you, I'm not always writing in a journal. Sometimes it is mental journaling. It is calling in that which I wish to experience. And so this morning, when I went seeking a little coffee shop, I went because I wanted to go journal my experiences into, I wanted to anchor into, and that's what I call my journaling. It's journaling is anchoring into the feeling I want to experience. Sometimes, yes, I'm going to acknowledge, what is happening in the world. That I experienced 3 different conversations where people are looking at vacating their homeland because of the threat that they experience outside. And so then I get to overwrite that with, I choose to anchor in and heal here. And so the need for the love notes from Mama Kate is just so affirmed on a daily basis.
Hmm. I see the world, I see things in the world as a pendulum, right? And that happy medium is when we're just gently flowing back and forth. We're never going to be completely aligned this way or completely aligned this way. But if we're gently floating back and forth and we can get a perspective on somebody else's views, then the world is much more peaceful and flowing. But right
Yeah.
now, the pendulum is like this, really, really swaying back and forth. And you have these strong opinions here and strong opinions here. And what I discovered is I have always been gently flowing back and forth, but because the pendulum with our political climate has shifted all the way over here, well, I have to voice my opinions over here and make those known. I'm not trying to argue with people on social media or change per se change their opinions, but I do know history has shown us that we can't remain quiet.
No,
We
no,
can't hide. We have
no.
to let our voices known, because when we make our voices known and we shout it, our political leaders have to listen because
Yes,
we elect them.
yes. Yes, and so that's the
So,
journaling. The journaling that I did in the cafe today will be the script for what I say when I call my representatives today. And I'm making calls every day. I've almost befriended Mark Messmer's phone answerer because he knows to expect my call every day. And he doesn't voice his opinion one way or another. He just accepts compassionately what I have to say, and he says he's going to refer it. So that being present in the world, we get to hear both sides, as you said. In my own family, there's division,
mhm.
and there have been some blocking on social media because the rhetoric that is being espoused is so violent. And my mother can't live with it. So, she's closed down some of that. I've hidden instead of blocking because I choose to curate what I see on the daily basis. But being present in the world, you can't hide and you can't block. And so,
Right.
as you mentioned, we have to have our voices heard. And so, political activism and political artivism are two of the ways that we get to respond. We get to express that artism, whether you're a knitter and a crocheter and you can do something to share joy and compassion and creativity, or you're a fine artist and you get to express joy and compassion. Those things have to continue even in the face of this inner turmoil and this outer turmoil that we're experiencing. Every single day, there is an opportunity for us to swing wide on the pendulum one way or the other in response to bring balance, right? They're over here. So we feel like we have to come over here when perhaps
Hmm.
what we need to do is maintain this so that when they're out, they come to our true north.
Exactly. Yes, because we want that nice, even of
Yeah.
flow,
Yes.
right? That's the
Yes.
perfect
Yes.
word. We
And
want the
some
flow.
way when we come way out here, there's going to be a response. So if we can do
Yes.
the best we can just to stay in this flow, regardless of where they are,
Hmm.
we're going to impact the experience on a global level.
All right, so we've talked about this a lot. And to go back to what we were starting this podcast with is sometimes all this political division and anger and rage and I'm right and you're wrong can really affect us. But what's it doing to our kids?
Yeah.
What's it doing to the youth? What's it doing to that marginalized population, whether it be people of color or people of nationalities or people of faith or people of gender identity? What's that doing to them? So it gets us back to the body keeps the score. That is Dr. Bessel van der Kolk's research. And he has a book that I have listened to on tape, and it is 17 hours long. That's how big the book is. But he shifted the way psychiatrists and psychologists work because his research was so significant. So, when we talk about this body keeping the score, that's why it's so vitally important that we wrap our loving arms around our neighbors, our children of God, if that's what you believe, or whatever. And I've said it once, I'm going to say it until the day I die. Love is the answer.
It is.
Love is my religion.
Yeah.
So I have another quote by Carol Flack, and it says, "In a world where you can be anything, be kind. But don't be so kind that you forget to stand up for yourself."
Yeah.
And
And
that's
that
really
is
what it's all about.
it
Go
is.
ahead.
And so often, talking about these marginalized communities, decisions are being made without them even being at the table
Yeah.
about their lives, about their livelihood. We see in the news that a prominent researcher who's a grad student is detained. We see that people who identify as trans are no longer permitted to identify themselves in anything other than a binary system. Nobody is acknowledging that their voices are important and that they get a seat at the table. And so the best thing we can do, there's another colloquialism about instead of building fences, build a bigger table. We've talked about swinging and staying here. And one of the ways we do that is to meet everyone we meet with love and compassion. And you mentioned seeing them as these individuals because they too are experiencing this fear response in their bodies. And they're choosing to respond perhaps in a rage expression instead of a creative expression.
Hmm.
When we look at what is this doing to our youth, to the next generation, and if you believe that we can heal 7 generations behind us and 7 generations in front of us, then our imperative is even greater to do this work now because I'm just going to personalize it again. My daughter is 32, going to be 33 this year, and doesn't have children yet, and is considering relationships. But the beginning of last year was ready to start a family. And now they're frightened to do that, to bring a child into this world. And
Hmm.
when we look at, I was created in my grandmother's womb because My mother's ovaries were holding the eggs that created me. Whatever my grandmother was experiencing in that time, perhaps, is impacting my expression in the world today. And our youth, whatever they're experiencing now, is going to manifest itself into 2, 3 generations forward because they're being created in this environment. So if we don't act with intention and with purpose and with joy and compassion, we are creating live ticking time bombs who are going to be internalizing this outside information into their bodies, and before they're even born, creating. And epigenetics has proved that this is the case. So it is our mission to come together and to be creative and to be joyful, even when we feel that we're being pulled, is going to impact the world in a more beautiful way. That doesn't mean don't call your representatives. That doesn't mean don't speak up. That doesn't mean be silent and Pollyanna. The world is a beautiful place. The world is a place.
Mhm.
The world is a
But
place.
I
And
do see the beauty. I do seek out the beauty every
yeah,
single, I haven't had alcohol in nearly 20 years because alcohol and I don't get along. Okay? It's generational. And
mhm,
I instilled these 12 steps into my life. And one of the things that I would always tell people is love and tolerance is our code. It is our code.
yes,
And everybody that I've helped along the way knows,
yeah,
oh, there's Dawn. Love and tolerance is our code. Because it is. Without
it
love
is.
and tolerance, we can't move forward on the path.
Even now, yes, 6 months
Right.
ago, it might have been easy for people to recognize that. But even now, even when
Yeah.
it feels like the fires literally are around us, the destruction is around
Mm-hmm.
us, the walls are closing in, our
Mm-hmm.
freedoms are being threatened. Even now, love and compassion, love and tolerance. And that
Yeah.
is why your mission in this world is so beautiful, Dawn.
I went with that 12-step framework for the grieving process. Like people think grief is like losing a kid, like I did, which that's a big one, right? I'm not going to lie. But there's so much grieving in the world right now with the changes that are happening, losses of employment. I quit my last job because I couldn't go on. And I grieved that job. And I did it.
Yeah, that's what
But it's
started me on this whole creative journey
yeah.
is I retired. I chose to retire. I wanted to retire. I'd been counting down the days for almost 5 years, literally to the day. I could say, oh, it's 4 years, 7 months, and 3 days. Literally, I chose it. And I was in bed under the cover for months, depressed, because who am I if I don't have this job? Who am I if I don't have this title? I didn't recognize how attached I'd become to the ego of the title of principal. And now I'm just a
Hmm.
person? No. Now I get to be a whole person. And we're not alone in that. People right now are saying, "Who am I without this job at the Park Service? Who am I when I cannot speak for the protection of people? Who am I when my role is protecting Social Security for the generations to come has been stripped from me?" We're all in the same soup,
Hmm.
regardless of what walk of life we
Right.
exist in.
And the first step
Mhm.
in the whole grieving process is to recognize not only your grieving process, but recognize the grieving that others are doing in our world. Because I don't know about you, but for me, and it's really funny to say this, but it's absolutely true. Grief has been my biggest teacher. My biggest. It has made me more compassionate. It's it's been really hard. It's been a and I've had a lot of it, as you know, but
Mhm.
it's been such a blessing in my life because it's opened me up. And I got involved with an organization, Ohio Can, Change Addiction Now. One of the sayings that we use all the time is nothing about us without us. All these decisions made about people who use drugs, let's lock them up, throw away the key, prison for life. All these rules are made, and if you don't include the people that are affected, you're not going to get effective change.
Yes.
I got a little emotional there, but I'm back.
But
But it is
but
emotional.
you're so right. You're so right. It is that which cracks us open, which allows the light to come in. And in the Japanese art of
Mhm.
kintsugi, where they repair their pottery with gold threads, my turn to get emotional because what I do is help people see the golden thread that has existed in their life since childhood, since birth, most likely, is that gift that you are bringing into the world. It is that art that you are as a human. And
Mhm.
when you follow those threads of whatever it is, for you, it's different than it is for me. For me, it's
Mhm.
I've always been the nurturer. I've always been the Mama Kate. For you, I suspect you've always brought sunshine into people's life, soulshine into people's life. You've been that joy, that smile, just seeing that smile right there. That is what you've done since as far back as you can remember, I would offer. And so, of course, it is your superpower. Of course, there were dark times where you didn't see the shine. And now
Right.
you get to see that shine and to shine that on others and whole communities at a time, not just individuals.
That's what I think we align so well together because we've each had our dark
Yeah.
moments.
Yeah.
And I've recognized that when I knew there was light, but I couldn't see it. I knew it was there, but I couldn't see it. I had hands reaching back and pulling me through that darkness. And that's why our roles now are so vitally important in this political climate, the world we live in. Yeah, there's beauty everywhere, but there are people that can't see it right now. So it's our job, it's our mission. I feel like I'm speaking for both of us to reach our hands into that darkness and help them toward the light
Yes.
because
Yes.
we
Be
will
that.
shine brilliantly in life's darkest moments.
Yeah. Mm.
Before we wrap up today, I'm going to ask you to share a little practice that you've instituted in your life that people can do all this week to help them through the week. And next week, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about healing in our communities. So go ahead and share just a little something that somebody
Okay.
can do easily. And I want to
Ah,
say, please check our show notes because I'm going to have links to Mama Kate's socials and anything that she wants to offer you. But if you go to her socials, you can get those love notes and they're amazing.
thank you. One thing that is so healing and we overlook it so often is the breath. Because the breath is healing the body and it does reach in and it does heal, but it also reaches the brain and rewires the neural networks so that we can exist in a stressless environment. I can't guarantee stress free, but one of my favorite practices is to breathe in through the nose for a count of 4, to hold at the top for a count of 7, and I practice just a little mindfulness, listening to what's happening around me, watching the shadows on the wall, whatever there, and then exhaling through the mouth for a count of 8 like you're blowing through a straw. And when you double the exhale over the inhale, it brings a sense of calmness and groundedness to your body. So if you're in that stressful situation, if you've been in that coffee shop and you feel as though you're absorbing like a sponge, your empathy has gone beyond empathy and has become internalization. Practice that 4-7-8 breath. 4-7-8, 4-7-8.
Mhm.
Do it 3 times. You can do that in a bathroom stall. You don't have to have anything wild. You can do it just like I did sitting here. What that does
Mhm.
is teaches your body you're safe.
Right.
Weird, wicked, wild, I know, but it teaches your body you're safe.
It's not weird, wicked, wild because I do those things as well, maybe a little bit differently, but the scientific backing behind this is when you exhale, it activates the parasympathetic nervous system,
Yeah.
which is the rest and relax. The
Yep.
sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight, which is the inhale. And the parasympathetic is the exhale. And that's scientifically why it's so important to do the longer exhale. The
And
other
I'm glad
thing
you
with
brought it up.
body
Do it.
movements, same thing. When you move your body, it connects different neural pathways in the brain
It
that
does.
creates this sense of safety and flow. So,
Yes.
yeah, everything
Yeah.
you said is spot on. Next week, we're going to dig deeper. And
Okay, so just for a simple creative practice, just draw a little body on a piece of paper. Doesn't have to be life size. And identify a couple of places where you have felt stress in your body, just like I mentioned earlier. And then draw hearts around those spaces and pour into those spaces all of the gratitude for all of the positive, joyful experiences you've had in that. Because again, that's going to activate new neural pathways of joy and overwrite the pain, the grief, the doubt, the fear.
I love that. I'm going to do that one this week because I've got some stuff going on with my cardiovascular system and I'm getting some testing, and I am going to do that
Because you
because
can
I
acknowledge what
believe.
is, right? You can acknowledge what is, but don't negate all of the other evidence, all of the proof and validation you have. You are safe and you are okay, and you do exist in this world as a human with this beautiful gift.
All right, hit that like and subscribe button, share this with your friends, start doing practices. I can't wait to see you next week. Thank you for joining.